It's good to see everybody, and I'm glad that you were able to join us tonight. Again, like Rick said, we're hoping to do this on a periodic basis just to update everyone with where we are at with the resources. I just want to give you a little bit of a history. I have been involved with the Association of Covenant Spiritual Directors prior to us even being formed as an association. We gathered originally as a conference network leaders, and sort of envisioning, do we form an association, all of that. And when we would have table discussions during our annual gatherings of spiritual directors during midwinter, a lot of questions would be, if we formed an association, what would be points of interest for you? What would draw you? What would you like to see happen? And often, especially in those early days, the number one thing was to network and to resource each other. And so this is really something that got birthed through desire and hope from other spiritual directors in giving support to one another as we do ministry and work together and collaborate in doing it well. And so that's a little bit of what brought this into being. We would like to eventually have it connected with our website, but that is not in the works or possibility right now. And so we did that connected to make sure it could start happening. We put it in the form of Google Docs. And so if you are a member of the Association of Covenant Spiritual Directors, then you have access to all the resources. I'm just going to walk us through it and let you see what we have available if you haven't had a chance to peruse it yet. And again, if you become a member of the association, you get automatic access to this. Up here, up in the right-hand corner, this is where I go to my Google accounts, because if I have anything else not related to the association, I can find it under my email address, and this one's just under the association. So I just go to Google by itself. And then when you go to this grouping of dots, these are the apps for Google, and I find it under my drive, my Google Drive. So I just click the triangle of Google Drive, and that opens it up. Often it ends up bringing these resources at the top for me, but you can also, if you needed to, if you have a whole bunch of Google Docs, if I just put in ACSD, then it will come up and give me some things that I can go to. And so it's just under the main heading, which is ACSD, Association of Covenant Spiritual Directors, Resources. And this is our main page that shows us the main headings of the categories of things that we have available. I want to first just open for you. It went in a different order for me, so give me 1 second. I was going to look for isn't that so interesting? It hopped around for me. At any rate, there we go. That's what I wanted. I put it in a different order. Here we go. I want to show you, this is our initial index of resources. So this is kind of like a bibliography or whatever, like you would have at the beginning of a book that tells you what is found. So if you want to know without having to search too heavily for it, start just with the very first thing, which is called the resource index, and open it up. This is currently what we have in here. And as things get added in, I will be updating this document that's in there, but it gives you an idea. So for instance, under contemplative prayer practices, we have a whole slew of things: art is prayer, audio divina, breath prayer, examine, all of these different ones, praying with scripture, Sabbath, serenity prayer, welcoming prayer, a whole bunch of things. I'm going to open them. And as Rick said before, most of these resources are from my personal library, as well as some that Ken Lund also contributed. We are open to receiving anything from anybody. So if you have stuff that you would like to add, I'm going to show you the format that we have it in. And if you would like to add something to our resources, we would be so grateful. And you can just email me. Everything is in a PDF form, so you cannot edit it, but you can print it out. So I will show you what those are. But anyway, here we go. These are some of the main headlines, titles. So contemplative prayer practices, continuing education, discernment, Enneagram, ethics, nature, prayer services, professional organizations, retreats. You'll see all of these things. So this just gives you an idea if you wanted to save yourself from having to look through all of them. Say, for instance, if you wanted the spiritual practice to learn more about the spiritual practice of fasting, then you know that this is the main subject in which you will find it under is fasting is under that. So that just gives you an idea of that. All I do is then when I go back, I just click from here and I'm back to where we began again, which is that main context. So the main topics, the large folder topics we came up with, Rick and myself, I think mainly in terms of the things that we would like to have available to everyone. We're going to click through them and you will see that some of these are empty because I don't have anything that fits that category and nothing's been sent in. So for instance, book reviews, we thought that might be something that would be interesting for people to have, but as you click it, oh, there's one thing. Oh yes, Terry sent this in. Terry Cathcart sent this in about how to do motivational interviewing with people on books and talks. So we do have that, but there are some other ones that might not have it, which we will look as we click through. So Terry sent something in with that. That's right. That was one other one. But I will show you some of the main ones. When it is black like this, that means there are still multiple things underneath that topic. When it's red, it's a singular document. So as you can see under Examine, which is under Contemplative Prayer Practices, if you double click that, there's several items even under the Examine. So some of those are ones that I wrote myself. Some of them are ones that I was given or I've taken when I've attended something, and I've either scanned it or typed it into a PDF form. So I'll give you an example of one. So again, everything in here is in PDF form and you can print it straight off of your computer. So what I've tried to do as much as possible is to make it a single page or that's either one-sided or two-sided, so that if you need to use them as a handout for your directees or using them at a retreat, that it wouldn't be a lot of paper involved. It's usually a single page, either a front or two-sided. So as an example, this is one that was given to me that I put together that was from my training through the center. And so I always and everything make sure that it gets, you see who contributed or who gave it, so you can either reference them. We want to make sure that everything that we put out has a reference of who wrote it or who put it together. It's either straight written. I'm going to go back to another Examine. So here's another one, Examine, also a different term that people have used, are highs and lows. Here's a simple one-page synopsis from Sleeping with Bread. And again, you can use this and it just gives single word, single question, a couple questions here that you can use as an Examine, as simple as that. As well as, let's find another one. Here's another one that gives a definition. And again, a prayer practice. All of these, this is from a book by David Fleming about Ignation spirituality. So you can tell that there's a whole variety, even under a single subject, there might be a variety of things available. The same for Lectio. And I tried to put in also who may be that I borrowed it from or wrote it from, so that if you had a particular one that you liked working with, you could also look at that. There's another, again, giving the references, but it can be as simple as that to that one's photo, scanned, and giving the reference on it. So that just gives you some ideas of those. Again, this is just under contemplative prayer practices. So we have Ignation exercises and artist prayer. I'll give you an example of that one. This I often bring to retreats when I have art supplies available to people, and then have this handout available to them, so I don't have to guide them through it, but I can also just have that on the same page. Some of these I borrowed and just put on PDF form from our Covenant resources, either Streams and Pathways or other ones that came out through various offices, and I put them into PDF form. Just so that they're easier to print off for retreats and such. Again, as you can see, there's a whole bunch under this one. I do have a lot of these. I do a lot of retreats and things, and use handouts a lot for various things. So that one is just the one under contemplative prayer practices. I think so continuing education is one that we don't have anything in yet. And so that would be one that we could be adding to. Here's discernment. I have a lot of documents. My faith community, we use the Clearness Committee, the practice of a Clearness Committee often. And so I just have a whole lot of handouts that I have on here, including some articles by Parker Palmer about Clearness Committee. So that's another one. Reminders, pointers. Again, if you were interested in that, you could open up one of them and just, as you can see, this one's quite long. So this one's a longer one, but is something that you can print out yourself and use in that case. The compass is another one that we use a lot. In the Covenant, we've used that quite a bit. And so I even have ones that a compass is on it, and the worksheet that you can use if you used it at a retreat or time away with either a directee or maybe a staff, a church staff or whatever. We have several examples of the compass. And so looking through it, again, you have a lot of varieties. I know we use this a lot with Living Forward. Bob, you might remember that. We use this version quite a bit when we did the Living Forward retreats. Let's see, trying to see if and then there are things that, like here for me, I've worked with people using the compass with a community, not just an individual, or using the compass when you're doing work with the Enneagram. Here's a compass with an individual. And so all it is, let me see, there we are. Giving it focused on the self. So I've already just changed the wording in that, where it talks about singular language, where if it was with a community, I would say us or something like that. So that's just the difference. The wording, the directions, all of that is the same. And when I do that, I use the word adapted, meaning it's not my original stuff. I've just adapted it and used it in my own context, but have it offered here for whoever wants to use that. So again, that one is specifically with the compass, and that's under discernment. Enneagram, I'm only just started. It's a little tricky with Enneagram because there are a lot of Enneagram teachers out there, and they have a lot of their own good documents that they've put a lot of work into. So right now I've just added, I got permission to use this, I believe, yeah, that it's Don Robinson's original document that he's used with training when he's done Enneagram training. And I got his permission to at least put this on. This is a beautiful document of how to pray at the end of maybe an Enneagram training to pray for each with those various types. So I had permission from Don for that. This is one that I just put on that's a simple overview of Enneagram, what it is, and how it can be used. But it's super basic, super basic. But that is one that could certainly grow. I know there are a lot of wonderful Enneagram teachers out there. Here are our ethics and essentials. This is our ACSD document on ethics that's also on the website. Here's our things on boundaries, some boundary work. So these are types of documents that are available. I don't mean to be going too fast for you guys, but I'm not sure what you want to maybe exactly look at. We added nature and creation. I did add a stations of creation that I've put together that's on here. All of that I'm just double clicking if that's confusing. This is a stations of creation I did a number of years ago. And used simply, this is a music reference, that's musicians Gungor, and that's their particular song that I used. And then we were outside and I used it in a park, in a nature preserve, and just put different places that we would walk to for each station of that, along with the scripture reference, and then added a spiritual practice that went with each of them. So that's just, again, another example of that one's particularly under nature and creation. I know that Rick has a deep passion for this, for nature and creation. And I'm sure some of the documents he would like to be sending in are connected to that. He has a wonderful blog that he does. I use a lot of poetry and quotes. I haven't put a whole lot of them in there quite yet, but I started that. Again, just some beautiful poetry that I use either with directees or on retreats. Can certainly be adding a lot more of those types of things on there. And again, I just keep clicking back. All I do is go backwards as I click to return to the main area. Let's see, here's retreats is another one that people often ask a lot about that in terms of guidelines on what people use for retreats. These again are just, a lot of them are my own documents, but some of them interesting articles that I've read about retreats. I know, let me see if I can find the specific one. I don't know if it's this one. No, that's Ken's. This is one of Ken's poems about retreats, how to approach a retreat. I use Ken's quote a lot that says, if a nap is not involved in a retreat, it's not a real retreat. And so he also, this is a beautiful poem. This was really beautiful, what we undo on a retreat. I'm going to see, this is the one I think, yep. These are my own personal notes from going through the center for training. And I keep all my notes, and I put it into a PDF version of how we were led through how to form a retreat. So some of the things you find in here, you might have also had as your notes as you went through your own training program. But that one is one that I just wanted to show you, is simply just a version of my personal notes that I took, that I put into a form that can be helpful, hopefully, for people as they lead retreats. Let's see, here's under spiritual assessment. I can't remember, Rick, can you remember what we were thinking of wanting to put in that category? I don't know. I'm not sure, Rick, if you remember.
Yeah, I've got a couple things, Jennifer, I can share.
To add to that, okay.
Yep.
And I think spiritual pathways activism is another one that we don't have anything in yet. And I'm going to open spiritual direction. This is full of things like how to run accountability groups, partnering groups. This one was adapted by a spiritual director and pastor in the my Great Lakes Conference, Pam Pangborn. So I added this with her permission. So this is just, again, some guidelines on how to run an accountability or partner, like a kind of like a spiritual direction group. I know this is often asked, you know, does anybody still have guidelines on how to run a triad? Well, here you go. Here's one of the basic ones from our training program that I put into a PDF form I use myself that I just added here. That's simply directly from when Rick and Millie, these that are joining us here, they were in my cohort that we had and used for when we were in the program. So how to work triads. I'm trying to see what's, this is some beautiful things, just images of what spiritual direction is, being a soul guide, being, again, from the center of spiritual direction. Just some beautiful images that you can work with if you're working with others to explain what spiritual direction is. Another, again, a variety of a whole bunch of things. This is one I think I've even put together, yeah, that I cut and did some cutting and pasting of what spiritual direction. So it also is, there's some documents in here that if you need to explain to people or your church or others what spiritual direction is, many of these types of things you might find helpful in that context as well. There's spiritual direction. Let's see what else there might be here. I'm trying to say I've got everybody's images right on top of what I'm trying to do. So I can't see the bottom of my screen here. Hold on one second. See if I can move that down and then see if I can, because I feel as though there's something at the bottom. Yeah, spiritual practices. That's what I wanted to open up. This is another one that has a lot. There's several documents under journaling, the use of a labyrinth, and then these are spiritual practices, celebration, fasting. This is one, I think this was from a Living Forward retreat that Bob and I were involved with, that Terry Marks used, and I adapted it to put it into this PDF form. That was a really cool practice of creating our own labyrinth with cards. And I even went out to the beach we were on and made my own labyrinth with rocks that I could use. So these are some additional ones from those types of contexts. Again, parable walks, playing what these are ones that just you're going to need to do your own looking at to explore. They might be some that you've not read through before or knew of. A lot of these are also in my faith community. Heather Monkmeyer was in my community for a very long time. She put together some wonderful documents. So you also see her name on several things that are in my library of various spiritual practices. This one simply being on simplicity, but you'll notice those things as well. So that is just a basic idea of what's in there. And I'm happy to go through it in more detail if you wanted to look more, but that is just, we wanted you to see what is available to you and how you can look through it. Again, I'm just going to click back to our main resource list. And I'm happy to take any questions or comments or anything more that you want to see specifically on here. I'm happy to answer them.
Jennifer, I have a question.
Yeah.
How do we submit a resource?
You can email it directly to me. What would be great is I've put it out before, but I'm happy to do it again after this. What's helpful for me is if you put it make sure that you have down at the bottom who it's referenced to, that's on there. And if you send it to me in a PDF form already, saved as a PDF, that's just an easy then for me to put it right into a folder right away. I'm happy. It's not a problem for me to also save it. But if you do that, that saves me a couple of steps. The most important thing is making sure that we have the reference at the bottom, at the end of the document, who it's authored by, or at least adapted by. That would be great. And just email it to me and I will put it right on. I'd be thrilled to do that. Any other questions or things that you'd like to take? Yes, Lydia.
Hi, Jennifer. I just realized that you don't have the email to my Gmail account, so I can't access the file.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to send you my Gmail.
Great. And perfect. Send me your Gmail and I will then send you a new invitation to the documents. And that's all you need. So what I would say is that probably the easiest thing is to keep your invitation somehow in a folder or marked on your own, in your own email or something like that, so that all you have to do when you want to access the resources is simply click that link and boom, you're right there.
Yep. Yeah, and periodically we will send that link out again just to remind people, because people kind of sometimes lose emails over the course of time or misplace it, and we'll try to make sure we are diligent once or twice a year at least to get that back out to our members.
Yeah. I'd be curious though, if you use Google Drive or Google Docs very often, if like I do, when I go up to this top corner and simply click on my email address under Google Docs, if you can access it that way too, and you don't necessarily have to always click the link. That I don't know, just because I authored it, so I don't know if you can, if it just saves it. So if anybody knows the answer to that, that would be good to know.
I'll check that out when I get offline.
Okay.
So I can see how that works.
Is there any question? Are there any questions or anything that you see on here that you don't see that you would like to see on here?
Yeah, and we're always willing to, eager to get that kind of information. If you think, do we have anything on such and such, and you don't find it, please ask, because then we can track it down. We'll try to track those things down. We haven't yet had good success with making general calls for resources on particular subjects, but we'll find eventually a system that works and something that allows us to gather, especially resources that we do not yet have. So please let us know what you're looking for. That would be very helpful to us. I have one question, Jennifer, or maybe more of a supplement to something you said. Everything's in PDF, and so it's printable. It's not editable. But everyone, if there's a source on the bottom, especially of someone on our ACSD who's adapted this from someplace else, you can be directly in touch with that person, and maybe they have an editable document that they can send to you. So just so you know, just because it's not editable for you, you might be able to track down an editable format from the person that contributed it. Another reason for putting names of people who are contributors, so that you've got this sense of if you really want to edit a document and work with it and ping it and make it very specific to your situation, whether it's with a directee or with a retreatant, you've got that option as well.
Yeah, just get in touch with them.
Yeah,
and they may not. Again, some of it might be a scanned document that they don't have, but you don't know until you get in touch with them.
Yep.
Any other thoughts or questions?
Might be good for us at some point in time, Jennifer, to, we do have that document that's the first up, when they see the list, but eventually it might not be a bad idea to make an alphabetical index of every single document we have. So, you know, you're looking, you've got the page, in front of you. You're thinking, where did I find this? You know, all you got to do is type in that name and bingo, it takes us to that. I'm not sure if Google Docs will do that, you know, but that's also something for us to just make
I mean,
this
I'm
as
sure if I did,
friendly as it possibly can be.
I mean, up here, if I type in examine, it does give me right here without having to open a file.
Okay, it gives you individual files.
Yeah, do you see that?
Okay, I see. Yep, yep.
So
yep.
it does give me what's available
Got it.
here if I did that. Let's try. Yep,
Okay. Anything with the word compass in is
looks
show.
like it's going to show up if
Right.
so I don't have to necessarily look for it if I know what I'm looking for.
If you know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Charlie Brown said, how do you look up a word in the dictionary if you don't know how to spell it?
That's right. The other thing that I will say is that since these resources were developed, we, through the bonus of quarantine, have done some things online that have been able to be recorded, and we have on a YouTube page channel type thing, right, Pam? And so that is something too that at the very least, we haven't figured out quite how to do it. I haven't figured out, if anyone knows how to do this, that would be great, how to put a link on this drive that you can just click. I don't know if that, I don't know how to do that. But another thing would be to have a link, or at least some way to access the things that we've recorded, the sessions and teachings that we are recording now on here. But I don't know quite how to do that. But those are also available.
Do you have any, will any of these documents have a URL included in it? You know, because it should be able to do that kind of a thing fairly easily.
I just don't know how. Personally, sorry.
Well, that's all right. I can check on that a little bit myself and see how that can be done.
But again, if you just get in here and type in what you're looking for at the top, you should find it, should be able to find it.
We can put in a category for association webinars.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And then then you've got that major category, and one by one, we can create a small document with a URL.
Exactly.
Takes people where they need to go. Mm-hmm.
So as soon as you know how to do that, I'll make the folder.
Okay.
I wonder if it wouldn't be helpful to have a category of online/app resources.
Great idea, Pam. I know I've got them on my phone.
Because there's some really nice ones out there. Pray as you go is frequently mentioned and used. And
Centering prayer. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's Centering Prayer has a really good one.
Yep.
There's several Enneagram ones that we can help people fine tune down to particular apps that we might, I don't want to say endorse, but find the most helpful.
Right.
That work as well.
Yep, Northumbria.
That's a good suggestion, Pam.
Northumbria has a great website.
Mm-hmm.
The Jesuits have a great website.
Yes, right.
There's some really, great apps that you can just easily have access to.
Yeah, websites. I'm writing that one down too.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. This has been very helpful. And, we will offer this introduction, like we said before, occasionally, so people can check in with us. You're welcome. I'm not sure how different it will be if we offer this again in 3 months, but we do want to better acquaint our members with access to our resources because we, like Jennifer said, this is one of the top couple of things that people think of a blessing of an organization like ours. So we're very pleased to be able to get this before you. Any other questions? Yeah, Linda, go for it.
So one of the things that I've realized listening to Jennifer tonight is that I have maybe gone about thinking about the resources backwards, which I do a lot of things backwards. So that's not too surprising. But, I have found a document helpful and I've brought it to resources and it's like, oh, there's already that there. Okay, so go away. And then, oh, here's another document that might be felt, oh, but there's already something there and gone away. And I wonder if instead I need to have a mindset of going to resources and seeing what's not there and then going and seeing what I have and making a commitment to look for what isn't there and then going to look for what I might be able to contribute. So
Mm,
I'm making a commitment to flip my thinking on that.
I appreciate. Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
I love that. And again, I would say, in addition, Linda, that as you saw, there were several versions or ways that the examen was presented. And even though it's all around the examen, some of them might be used in different ways. I know that's true. There's a couple that I have that are half page, so it's printed on there twice. So if you find that there's something too, I just also encourage you, anyone can get on and see if what you have enhances what we have available.
Yes.
It's not necessarily an exact duplicate. You never know.
Yours might fit better somebody else's needs, Linda.
Right. But thank you. Yes, I appreciate that. Definitely would love to fill the categories that we don't have anything for yet.
Thank you
Great.
for all the hard work you've done. It's amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Happy.
It's like a life work.
Yeah.
Good.
And it'll just get better in time. That's what's exciting to me, is that the longer we're together, the longer we resource each other, the more committed we are to not just doing our own work, but seeing to the blessing of others in the sharing of those resources. Free sharing of resources is a pretty remarkable thing that we can do, because they're covenant vetted. You can assume that they're covenant vetted because they're created by covenanters. And not that we have to be so exclusive, because obviously a lot of us appeal to Celtic, the Northumbria, and Jesuits and Benedictines and what have you. But at the same time, these are things that are meaningful to other covenanters, and that alone becomes a blessing to us in the long run and in the short run.
Yes, absolutely.
Check a chat just to make sure we're good. Okay, Linda has to go, and we get that. All right. I think we had just said that this could go a half an hour. This could go an hour, and we've been here at about 45 minutes. So if no one has any other questions, going to ask Jennifer to lead us in a closing prayer, if she would.
Absolutely. Actually, I've made it a habit. Anybody who's been online with me recently knows I have my John O'Donohue to bless the space between us right next to my computer, because not that I don't have words and the spirit can't flow, but boy, he's got some beautiful things. So I think what I'm going to share with is, and I wasn't prepared, so as you can tell, so I'm kind of seeing how the spirit is moving with this.
Spirit moves you. Yeah.
Yeah.
What a confidence.
I think I'm looking for it. I have one in mind. There it is. All right. So as we have gathered together and we've been a community of kindred spirits, those of us who seek after God and find dear friendship with one another and kindred pathway, I'm going to offer this blessing for friendship. May you be blessed with good friends and learn to be a good friend to yourself, journeying to that place in your soul where there is love, warmth, and feeling. And may this change you. May it transfigure what is negative, distant, or cold within your heart. May you be brought into real passion, kindness, and belonging. May you treasure your friends. May you be good to them, be there for them, and receive all the challenges, truth, and light that you need. And may you never be isolated, but know the embrace of your Anam Cara. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, folks, for being with us tonight. God bless you all.
Thank you for offering this.
Good night,
Appreciate it.
everybody. Thank
Good night.
you. Good to